Hey, how are you? How's everyone? Um, so I got a real estate story for you, and it's kind of like this agent did what or said what. Very interesting. If you don't know, I'm a real estate broker, and I've been a real estate broker since 2008. So going on 13 years when it becomes 2021, and one of the things about real estate is that you're able to help people find homes and sell their homes and kind of help them with the biggest investment decision of their life, to purchase a home or to sell their home. That's one of the American dreams that people say. But some of the agents that I've seen and encountered really surprised me. Back in 2008, with the real estate market crash and the economy, one of the things that the transactions were really heavy on back then in 2008 was real estate owned, REO, bank owned properties. And you had to deal with a lot of these asset managers. And these asset managers, very interesting characters because, you know, it's like they were like rock stars, right? All the real estate agents in the industry wanted to connect with these asset managers from Bank of America or Chase Bank because they wanted the transactions, and they would give these agents multiple properties that are in foreclosure or bank owned properties, and it was their responsibility to sell off these assets. And what's really interesting is during that time, all the legal liability went to the real estate agents. So that means if there was something wrong with the property and the agents didn't know about it, they were still blamed. The bank knew about it, but the agent didn't know. And what would happen was if there was any legal lawsuit, the banks would not be responsible for that lawsuit. It was always on the real estate agent and that broker, and that was a very high risk. On top of that, a lot of these so-called asset managers, they were expecting a kickback, and what that kickback really meant was, form of gift cards or maybe little cash under the table. And it was just so it was just so like, oh, it's a dirty business at that time, the REO business, the bank owned properties, right? And one of my colleagues, and it was a shock to me because this colleague of mine, we were in the Palm Desert area for this REO real estate owned conference, right? These bank owned properties conferences, and we wanted to deal with get some assets and work with the banks to get these transactions. And one of my colleagues, was there, and it was like these asset managers would auction off themselves to sit down for dinner, right? People would pay close to $1,000 or more just to sit with the asset managers to talk shop and maybe potentially get business from them. And one of these colleagues of mine that I knew, uh, you know, showed a little skin, flirted, right, and to get that business, and it was shocking. I didn't judge or anything, but it was shocking, and I thought to myself, I'm not gonna pay to play to get business. That's not how I run things. That's not the ethical thing to do. And whether you went to school, college, or real estate school, or to get a degree in real estate, it shouldn't matter. Everyone knows that simple, basic ethical principles on how to behave, and everyone knows that when you are, when you behave something, you follow the rules of right and wrong, and that right and wrong depends on you, right? For me, I'm not going to pay to play. I'm not going to give any kickback or gift cards to these asset managers and, try to wine and dine them, right? And nor would I was going to show a little skin to get some of the transactions either. So I just thought, wow, um, this is wrong. So for 2008 all the way to like, maybe 2011, 12, I've had no transaction whatsoever in real estate. So I was hurting hard. Um, I wasn't working in the real estate owned bank owned property businesses. I was basically finding alternatives. So that's how I started the social media thing in 2008 because I heard about Facebook. I heard about at that time there was an app called Foursquare, which was like the Yelp back in the day. and it was like a check-in service before Yelp really blew up, and Twitter. And those were the three main social media sites back then that was really popular between those era of 2008 to maybe like 2013, right? Before Instagram really was picking up as popularity. And I used to check in to Starbucks in Brea area all over Orange County and made an announcement of where I was and basically said, "Hey, I'm here to help you, the client, and I'm here to help you, um, go through a short sale or how to handle a foreclosure, and some legal aid and resources and housing nonprofits to help you keep your home, or maybe maybe if you need to file bankruptcy." And I don't I had plenty of time in my hands because there was no transactions literally. Like I was not doing any transactions because I wasn't part of that, REO. That's what they call it, the REO network. And I spent most of my time at Starbucks because people actually showed up with boxes and wanted to, you know, try to save their homes. And these were desperate homeowners. And then that's when I realized that, you know what? I think I'm going to try to work the nonprofit area and just help out. And I ended up trying to build relationships with a lot of bankruptcy attorneys and housing nonprofits to help these individuals. And these same homeowners got scammed by all these loan modification companies that were out there. And it was disheartening and sad. And it made the real estate industry look really bad. And they punished a lot of the real estate professionals out there, right? Before 2009, if you're a real estate broker, you could do mortgage industry business and your real estate business at the same time. And because of that new law change that took effect in 2009, half of my real estate business that I established was gone because I wasn't willing to get a new mortgage license as well as my broker's license that I already had. So I try to find out other alternatives, and I'm glad I did because I work with nonprofits like Legal Aid Society of Orange County, the Orange County Paralegal Associations, and to learn more about bankruptcy and how to help these consumers, because these consumers were so desperate that they were paying mortgage payments with their credit card, and it was insane. And they had medical bills because of stress, and I've made them look into bankruptcy Chapter 7 attorneys because that was like the most viable way to go, because if they're going to ruin their credit, they might as well go all the way, because if they do a short sale, that still affects their credit and they still have to pay off their credit card debt and unsecured debt and all this other stuff. So I think a new fresh start would have been better. And when they did that, they were pretty thankful, but at the same time they were questioning me like, why don't you want my business? Like, you could have done a short sale. And I thought a lot of my professors and my family and my experience of people that I've encountered, what they taught me is to treat others as you would want to be treated, and do people right and they'll do you right, right? And I took that to heart. So, and it came through. A lot of these same people that I helped, they referred me business, and I didn't sell a home until 2011. So mind you, for 3 years, no real estate transaction except just building network and relationships. And it was one of the toughest years at that time. And, I personally, I'm going to say it live and I'm going to say it now. I personally had to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy because of the 2008 market crash in real estate. I lost a lot of financial resources. My family lost a lot of financial resources because of the real estate housing market that crashed. And it humbled a lot of us. It humbled me, right? I came from Gardena, Torrance, Hawaiian Gardens, Carson, to Cerritos, to Fullerton, and living in Fullerton in the horse ranch properties, the high price home in Baston Cherry area with next to St. Jude. And, lived very comfortably, and forgot during those years of where I came from, right? From the low income, the hardworking, to the rich, and then, not really being concerned with money, right? And when this real estate market hit, I went down the tubes, and I've encountered lessons from that. And you know, I have a lot of respect for real estate agents in the real estate profession because I had a lot of family members that were doing the business professionally and ethically. And what's disheartening is that, you know, over the years, I've heard some crazy stuff that real estate agents and professionals would say. Um, you know, uh, they would say things like, you know, they would say things like, "Yeah, maybe your client would be better in Irvine because you know that's an Asian community." And I'm thinking, you shouldn't be saying that out loud, right? I mean, maybe the person wasn't trying to be racist, maybe didn't mean to be that microaggression against Asian folks, maybe didn't even realize what was said that was inappropriate. But you know, when you have a client, you don't steer them to a community that you think they might like. That's called steering, right? That's against the law. That's against real estate rules. I mean, when you see an Asian face, you don't assume that they want to go to Chinatown. And a lot of real estate agents have done that, assume. And you got to be careful with that. And fast forward to all these years of my encounter of real estate agents, the most interesting things that I've heard from real estate agents verbally, whether on social media or whether face to face, was literally a political comment, which, political politics aside, on policy disagreements, that's fine. But this real estate agent actually said Kamala Harris is not black. She's not black enough. And I don't know what was meant by that statement or what this person was trying to message she was trying to convey. But I think that was pretty inappropriate to say. And I called that real estate agent on it. What do you mean not black enough? What are you trying to say? And, why that sounds really anti-black to me. And when I said that, that person, that real estate agent, mortgage professional, started arguing with me about stuff that had nothing to do with my initial question of what was your intent in that statement by saying that Kamala Harris was not black enough. What did you mean by that? What was your intent? And this person, this real estate agent, came off and said, "Well, this it started with Obama," and I was very concerned at that point because I wasn't sure if that person was having a mental breakdown or mental health issues, because I don't know how Obama got into that conversation. When I asked, what was your reasoning behind that statement? What was your purpose of saying Kamala Harris was not black enough? And that person talked about Obama, and I felt like this is weird conversations, right? And that's one of the most weirdest conversations I had with another real estate professional. And I thought, are they really that racist in the real estate profession? I know racism and systemic racism and institutional racism is everywhere. It's even open more so now in 2020. But I'm also thinking, could the real estate industry have been filled with a lot of real estate agents that are just racist and then now brave enough to say what they want to say? And I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting in the real estate industry, right? I even posted about this, about how a real estate agent told me that I'm a Marxist and communist because I believe in anti-racism. And I believe that you shouldn't be anti-black, you shouldn't be anti-Asian, you shouldn't be racist. And that real estate agent posted on my wall that I was a Marxist and communist and all this other stuff. And when I responded in that message thread on Facebook, he responded to me saying that must not understand English, right? Here's a tip. If you see an Asian person and you tell them you must not understand English, that's a no-no. That's pretty offensive to Asian folks, right? Maybe you don't mean it that way, but Asians, I would take it that way, right? And maybe not all Asians take it that way, but there's some historical significance of saying that to an Asian person, right? But when he said that, I called him out on it. and then he deleted his comment. And then the funny thing is, about maybe 3 weeks after that encounter on Facebook, I saw him at one of our association meetings and stuff like that. Because, I still sometimes attend the real estate industry meetings and just seminars and things like that. And I saw him on one of them, and I called him out at that meeting. And it's interesting that all of a sudden he didn't want to acknowledge me or acknowledge that statement, right? And it's really interesting that this past month, the National Association of Realtors, which is our national association for our profession of real estate professionals, they put an anti-racist statement that we no longer will be anti-racist. And also one of the code of ethics, with that is that you can't say speech or racist hate outside of the real estate profession, whether it be on Facebook or whatnot. And I found that to be very powerful, because a lot of these real estate professionals, they love spewing their hate and comments, thinking that they are safe. And when National Association of Realtors put that out, that you cannot do that anymore, have racist speech and hate speech, that's a violation. And I think that's a good thing. It makes the industry get a little bit cleaned up, right? Because there is racism towards that. There's a historical racism within National Association of Realtors as well. In 1947, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, the Realtist, is an all African American real estate association that formed in 1947 because National Association of Realtors would not let these black people in to the profession, to that organization, to that professional organization. So, they started their own. In the 1990s, NAHREP, National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, started because they wanted to serve minority communities, specifically the Latinx, right? And then we have AREA, the Asian Real Estate Association of America, back in 2003, talking about Asian home ownership and, working with the Housing Urban Authority development, right, to promote language information about housing and tenant rights in multiple languages other than just Chinese, Korean, and Japanese, right? Like Hindu, Bangladesh, all of that stuff. And there's a lot of work to be done in terms of public policy and housing and whatnot. But I just found that interesting that within my years of being a real estate broker and encountering a lot of real estate professionals, it's just interesting of what a lot of them say. Being racist or not being racist or not meaning to be racist, it just comes out racist in the things they say. But I also want to acknowledge that there are a lot of real estate professionals out there that are anti-racist and want to do better, right? And yes, Arlen, I see your comment. Yeah, The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein is a good book. And it talks about the institutional and systemic racism and the racism within housing called redlining, right? And that redlining was where they actually drew a map of red lines not to loan in these particular at-risk neighborhoods, which were neighborhoods that have people of color. That's what redlining was. And it wasn't until the Fair Housing Act of 1968 that it was deemed illegal and you couldn't do that. But just because something is deemed illegal doesn't mean the practice stopped, right? And I have to say, learning a lot in my real estate industry and actually teaching real estate classes, right? Teaching real estate classes to students and future real estate professionals out there, it just makes me wonder sometimes that are a lot of people just thinking like the $1 million listing and they want to be rich and that's it? Or are they not taking the profession seriously, right? And there are some real estate people out there that I think, how did you become a real estate agent or a broker? Because the things you do and the things you say and how you act, that's borderline not just ethical violations, but that's borderline like between illegal and legal, right? You play that too close to that gray line, and I don't know, that's just my opinion, right? And I'm sure when other real estate professionals see my video, they're probably going to try to talk to me about my video or this and that. But I stand where I say, I I stand by my words and I say what I'm going to say, right? Especially about the history of the bank owned properties and those real estate owned where the asset managers wanted to be like rock stars and people pay to play to get in that industry, part of that industry. And, that industry of the bank owned properties and foreclosures, when that went out, when that trend went away, a lot of those same real estate professionals that were in that trend, they're no longer in the real estate industry because they don't know what else to do. It's just, I find it very interesting. And a lot of these real estate companies that did all that, I don't see them alive in this real estate industry today in 2020. So, but anyways, I know I'm rambling on. It's a long video. I just wanted to share my thoughts, but I tell you, know your rights as a consumer, and if any real estate agent really makes you feel uncomfortable or says things that are inappropriate or racist, then report them for that. Report them for that. Document what they said, right? Because it's not appropriate. I mean, if you don't like Asian people, don't come into the Asian neighborhood and try to sell their house and help Asians buy houses, right? It's the simplistic thing. Because, some of the comments and what people are saying, it stopped now that the elections are over, but I still remember it. And I know a lot of consumers remember it. They're not going to forget. And a lot of these Facebook posts that they put, it's on there forever. It's going to pop up one day, right? But anyways, I hope all of you have a good night. Those of you that were watching, those of you that were listening. And have a good week ahead. Take care of yourself.